Hello students, today in 11th standard we are going to start our portion from a poem. This is the first poem that is selected for your portion and it is Cherry Tree, written by Ruskin Bond. Before going to start our poem, let us have a glimpse about the poet Ruskin Bond. He was born in Himachal Pradesh in 1934. Ruskin Bond is the Indian based foreign author. He has written so many poems, stories, and he has written his own autobiography also. In this poem, Cherry Tree, we can see the happiness of the poet when he sees that the plant of cherry that he has planted few years back was growing, and in spite of all odd conditions it continues efforted to grow. There is a use of symbolism as through this poem the poet has expressed that in spite of all or odd conditions, unfavorable conditions, we all must have motive to grow and should always be ready to provide to the society we are growing in, just like the cherry tree. So now let us have the stanza wise explanation of the poem Cherry Tree. 8 years have passed since I planted my cherry seed in the grass. Must have a tree of my own, I said, and watered it once and went to bed and forgot. But cherries have a way of growing, though no one's caring very much or knowing. The poet says that 8 years ago he has planted a cherry seed, and as he has desire that he must have his own tree, he planted the cherry seed and watered once. And the poet further mentions that after that he forgot that he had planted seed. But as we all know that the cherries, they have their own way of growing. They grow even in unfavorable conditions also, whether they are being cared, they are being fertilized, they are being watered or not. And suddenly, that summer near the end of May, I found a tree had come to stay. It was very small, 5 months child, lost in the tall grass, running wild. The poet further mentions that after 8 years, suddenly he remembered about the cherry seed that he has planted. And when he inspected, he found that there was small, 5 month little plant, and that was almost lost in the wild grass that had grown around it. Here in this line, it was very small 5 months child. There is a figure of speech personification as the tree is introduced as being 5 months child. Goat ate the leaves, the grass cutter scythe split it apart, and a monsoon blight shriveled the slender stem. Even so, next spring I have watched their new shoots grow. The young tree struggle upward, thrust its arm in a fresh, fierce lust for light and air and sun. Now, in this stanza, we can see that which were the bad conditions, odd events that the plant has faced. The goat has eaten its leaf, and the grass cutter, who were cutting wild plants along with them, they had scythed. साइज मीन्स होता है कि जो जिससे हंसिया से या ग्रास कटर से ग्रास को काट लेना. So they had cut it along with the wild plant, that cherry tree also. And in monsoon season, it was damaged, and its tender stem was rather dried. But when the next spring came, again it started to take new shoots, and thus we can see that the young tree was still struggling forcefully to grow upward with the lust of light, air, and sun. I could only wait as one who watched one wandering while time and the rain met a miracle from green growing pain. I went away next year, spent a season in Kashmir, came back thinner, rather poor, but richer by a cherry tree at my door. Poet says that I could do nothing except waiting for it to grow. And by the passage of time, once poet had to go abroad in Kashmir for a few years, and when he came back, the poet says that he himself has become little thinner, or rather poor, you can say. But he was richer in a sense that he had his own tree that he had expected. We had seen in the first stanza as he wanted to have his own tree. 6 feet high, my own dark cherry, and I could scarcely believe it a berry. He found when he came back from Kashmir, he found that 6 feet tall dark cherry tree was standing at his door, ripened and jeweled in the sun, hung from a branch just one, and next year there were blossoms small, pink, fragile, quick to fall at the merest breath. The sleepiest breeze. The poet says that in the next year he found that on its small and soft branches there were blossoms. Blossoms here, the flowers came. The flowers were pink. Fragile means here weak, kamjor. They were so fragile, so weak that very quickly they were ready to fall. At the slowest breath, I lay on the grass at ease, looking up through leaves at the blue blinded sky as the finches as they flew and flitted through the dappled green. It says that in the state of ecstasy or happiness, he laid down on the grass, looking upward towards the cherry tree, through which you can see the dark blue sky and the finches. Finches here, it means a kind of small bird. Finches, a kind of small bird that was fluttering, flying around that dappled green cherry tree. Dappled means here the having a dark spots, pitches, patches, while bees in an ecstasy dark of nectar from east bloom and the sun snacks swiftly and the stars turned in the sky and moon moths and singing cricket and yes, I praised night and stars and tree that is small cherry grown by me. In the last stanza, poet mentions that bees in the state of happiness were drinking the nectar of the cherry blossoms till that time the stars turned, means the stars came all over the sky, it became dark. Now the moon moths and the uh, crickets were singing in the state of happiness as the poet was happy along with them, and along with the moon moths and crickets he also praised the nights and the stars, and along with night and stars he praised the tree also. Which tree? The tree that has grown over him. It was cherry tree.